Did you know that one ordinary evening habit, something millions of Americans over 60 do every single night without thinking, can quietly triple your risk of having a stroke while you sleep? Most seniors never hear this warning. Doctors rarely mention it. And yet, every year in the United States, thousands of older adults go to bed feeling perfectly fine, only to wake up unable to move one side of their body, unable to speak, or unable to recognize their own family. Welcome to this special episode of Senior Brain Health, where we combine decades of neurological research with real world clinical experience to protect the aging brain. Tonight, we're diving into a topic few people talk about, but every senior needs to understand: the dangerous evening habits that silently push your blood pressure higher, thicken your blood, strain your heart, and set the stage for a stroke during the night or early morning. If you're over 60 or love someone who is, you'll want to stay with me until the very end, because the habits we're about to uncover may be hiding in your home right now, and knowing them could save your life. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. Eating dinner too late and too heavy. As a physician who has treated older adults for more than 4 decades, I can tell you that one of the most dangerously underestimated habits among Americans over 60 happens quietly, around the dinner table, long after the sun has gone down. It seems harmless: a later meal, a larger plate, a comfort dish, eaten while watching evening news. But when you cross into your 60s, your body no longer processes a late meal the way it once did. What feels like just dinner can quickly become a cardiovascular burden that keeps your blood pressure elevated, forces your heart to work harder long into the night, and disrupts the delicate balance your brain depends on to stay safe while you sleep. When you eat late, especially a heavy, high salt, high fat meal, which is extremely common in American households, the digestive system demands an immediate surge of blood flow. That surge raises nighttime blood pressure at the exact stage of life when arteries are stiff, fragile, and often narrowed from age-related plaque. A spike like that may not cause any pain, but it silently increases the pressure inside vessels leading into the brain. And for seniors, that pressure is not just a number, it's a threat. It destabilizes older plaques, makes tiny vessel walls more likely to rupture, and places strain on already weakened circulation networks. Many of my patients have experienced their highest blood pressure of the entire day between 9 p.m. and midnight, directly after a late, heavy dinner. Worse still, a full stomach before bed slows the heart's natural chance to rest. Instead of winding down, the autonomic nervous system stays in a state of low-grade stress, pushing the body to digest a large load while lying down. During sleep, this creates stagnation in the bloodstream, and stagnant blood is the perfect environment for clots to form, especially in older adults with reduced hydration, slower circulation, and age-thickened blood. I have seen countless seniors who had no symptoms during the day, only to develop a clot overnight that traveled upward in the early morning hours when blood pressure rises again. And once that clot reaches the brain, it triggers strokes. Strokes that steal speech, mobility, and memories within minutes. You may not feel your blood thickening. You may not sense your arteries struggling, but your body feels every bit of it. The nighttime hours are supposed to be a period of healing, restoration, and stability. Instead, a late, heavy dinner forces your system into a metabolic battle while you sleep, keeping your blood pressure elevated, your heart overloaded, and your brain vulnerable. And here is a truth many older Americans never hear. The stroke that changes your life at 6 a.m. often begins silently the night before. It doesn't start with a dramatic collapse. It starts with a late meal. It starts with pressure building quietly. It starts with blood pooling and thickening when the body should be resting. It starts inside the darkness where no one is watching. If you've been eating later and heavier as you age, something I see every day in my older patients, you may be unknowingly placing your brain at risk. But this is only the first of several evening habits that silently raise stroke risk after 60. And the next one is even more common, even more deceptive, and it affects almost every American household. Let's move to the second habit, one that millions of seniors do every single night without realizing how dangerously it slows their circulation. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. 2. Sitting for hours in front of the TV without moving. Among the countless habits I've witnessed in my older American patients, few are as deceptively dangerous as the quiet, comfortable ritual of sitting for hours in front of the television every evening. It feels harmless, almost therapeutic after a long day. You settle into your favorite chair, remote in hand, and allow the flicker of the evening news, the game show, or a late night drama to wash over you. But as a neurologist who has treated seniors for more than 40 years, I've learned that what feels like rest to the mind can be catastrophic for the aging circulatory system. Your body may be still, but inside, your blood is slowing, thickening, and pooling in ways that silently set the stage for a stroke. Once you reach your 60s, your veins lose elasticity. The tiny valves meant to push blood upward toward the heart no longer work as powerfully as they once did. When you sit motionless for prolonged periods, especially in the evening, when the heart rate is at its lowest and the body systems are naturally winding down, blood begins to settle heavily in the legs. This pooling doesn't cause immediate pain, so most seniors ignore it. But it creates an internal stagnation that is far more dangerous than people realize. In stagnant blood, platelets clump more easily. Clots form with very little provocation. And once a clot gains solidity, it doesn't stay in the leg forever. It waits. It waits for the moment you stand, stretch, or shift suddenly, often when you get up to go to bed or to the bathroom. In that moment, the clot can travel upward, silently entering the bloodstream. When that clot reaches the brain, it triggers strokes. Strokes that happen in the early morning hours, long after the TV has been turned off, and long after the quiet, still hours of inactivity have done their damage. Many seniors never connect their stroke to the night spent sitting in that recliner, but I've seen the pattern so many times that it no longer surprises me. A patient who sat for 2 or 3 hours without getting up has a sudden blockage the next day. The family calls it unexpected. Medically, it is anything but. The danger increases even more when combined with other age-related factors: evening dehydration, slower blood pressure regulation, and diminished muscle pumping in the calves. The muscles in your legs are your body's natural circulatory engine, but when they are inactive for too long, the bloodstream becomes sluggish, and sluggish blood thickens, just as a river thickens when it stops flowing. It forms blood clots with alarming ease, clots that can change your entire life in seconds. Most frightening of all is how peaceful the danger looks from the outside. You don't feel dizzy. You don't feel pain. You don't feel a warning. Your circulation is deteriorating in silence. I've walked into hospital rooms and heard seniors tell me, "Doctor, all I did last night was watch a little TV." But inside their bodies, the long hours of stillness had set off a cascade of vascular risks, risks they never saw coming. If you are over 60 and spend your evenings in a recliner without moving for extended periods of time, I want you to understand this clearly. Your comfort is not protecting you. Your relaxation is not harmless. Your stillness is working against you in ways you cannot see. And shockingly, the next evening habit is just as common, yet far more directly destructive to the aging brain. It's something millions of older Americans do every night, believing it helps them unwind, when in reality, it pushes their stroke risk even higher. Let's move to evening habit number 3, a behavior many seniors rely on without realizing the silent harm it does to their brain and blood vessels. 3. Ending the day in stress, arguments, or emotional overload. If there is one thing I wish every older American understood, it is this: the brain does not forget the emotional tone you fall asleep with. As a neurologist who has spent decades treating seniors across the United States, I have seen the devastating consequences of going to bed with your heart racing, your mind unsettled, and your body flooded with tension. Many older adults assume emotional stress is purely psychological, that it can be slept off, ignored, or brushed aside. But after age 60, emotional strain becomes a physical event. It reshapes your blood pressure, destabilizes your heart rhythm, thickens your blood, and places enormous pressure on vessels that are already weakened by age. The habit of ending the day with arguments, anxiety, or unresolved tension is far more dangerous than most people imagine. When seniors argue late at night, whether about health concerns, children, finances, or even small disagreements, their bodies respond as if facing a threat. Cortisol spikes, adrenaline surges, blood vessels constrict, the heart begins to beat harder and faster at a time when it should be slowing down. This nighttime surge is especially perilous because older arteries do not expand the way they used to. They are stiff, narrowed, and fragile. A sudden rise in pressure stretches them to their limits, creating micro tears in vessel walls and weakening plaque that has been stable for years. A stressed heart at 9 p.m. can still be struggling at 1 a.m., long after the argument is forgotten. What many seniors don't realize is that emotional stress changes the viscosity of the blood. The hormones released during conflict cause platelets to become stickier and more prone to clustering. In older adults, who may already be mildly dehydrated or have slower nighttime circulation, this environment becomes a breeding ground for clot formation. And once a clot forms, it does not wait politely for morning. It can slip into the bloodstream while you sleep, drifting silently until it reaches a narrow vessel in the brain. At that moment, it triggers strokes, blocking vital oxygen and blood flow in an instant. I cannot count the number of times I have seen a patient rushed into the ER after a stroke, only to have the spouse quietly admit, "We were arguing last night." They usually say it with guilt, as though the emotional strain should not have mattered. But it does matter. In older adults, stress is not just a feeling. It is a physiological storm that leaves the brain vulnerable and the blood primed for disaster. Going to bed with a pounding heart or racing thoughts is like lying down next to a ticking clock inside your own circulation. The saddest part is that most seniors don't recognize the symptoms of dangerous stress. They think it's just frustration, just worry, or just part of life. But the body recognizes it as a threat, and the brain pays the price. A single night of emotional overload can undo weeks of stable blood pressure and can push a vulnerable artery to the breaking point. If you are over 60, I urge you to treat your emotional state at bedtime as seriously as your medication schedule. Your brain depends on a calm internal environment to survive the night safely. And if you think emotional stress is the worst kind of nighttime danger, I'm afraid the next evening habit is even more deceptive and even more quietly damaging. Let's move to evening habit number 4, a behavior that seems gentle and harmless, yet slowly undermines the brain through a kind of nighttime dehydration most seniors never notice until it is too late. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 4. 4. Not drinking enough water in the evening. Of all the habits I see among older Americans, the quiet decision to avoid drinking water after dinner may be one of the most dangerous and one of the most misunderstood. It often begins with innocent intentions. Many seniors fear waking up during the night to use the bathroom, or they worry about stumbling in the dark, losing sleep, or disrupting their partner. So they limit evening fluids, sometimes to almost nothing at all, believing they are protecting themselves. But after treating stroke patients for more than 40 years, I can tell you this: dehydration at night is far more harmful, far more silently destructive, and far more lethal than a single trip to the bathroom could ever be. By the time a person reaches 60, the body already struggles to maintain proper hydration. The sense of thirst weakens, kidney function changes, blood vessels stiffen, and the blood itself becomes more prone to thickening when fluid intake drops. When seniors stop drinking water in the evening, their bodies enter the night in a depleted state. Then the natural overnight fluid loss through breathing, sweating, and normal metabolic processes makes the blood even more concentrated. What most older adults don't realize is that this thickened nighttime blood moves sluggishly through aging arteries that are narrow and rigid. This combination is a perfect storm for disaster. In the early hours of the morning, when blood pressure rises sharply as part of the body's natural wake up process, this thickened, dehydrated blood can become trapped in tight arterial passages. The slow flow encourages platelets to clump together. It forms blood clots quietly, with no pain and no warning. And once a clot forms in this vulnerable nighttime environment, it doesn't stay put. The moment pressure surges, often between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m., the most common hours for strokes in older adults, the clot can break loose, travel upward, and lodge itself in a vessel feeding the brain. When that happens, it triggers strokes that can permanently change your ability to speak, to move, or to recognize your loved ones. What makes evening dehydration especially dangerous is its invisibility. You don't feel thirsty. You don't feel sick. You don't feel anything at all. Yet, inside your bloodstream, the dehydration is reshaping your vascular system moment by moment. I've looked at countless stroke scans where the cause didn't involve a traumatic event or a medical emergency, but something far simpler: a night spent with blood too thick to circulate properly. And families often look at me in disbelief when I explain how the danger began. Not with a fall, not with stress, not with medication, but with the quiet decision to skip water before bed. If you are over 60, dehydration is not a mild issue. It is a profound threat to the stability of your blood flow and the safety of your brain. I am not telling you to drink excessively or to force water right before sleep. I am telling you that entering the night mildly dehydrated is like sending your blood into battle without armor. Your brain depends on even, steady circulation to make it safely through the night, and dehydration undermines that protection from the inside out. What frightens me most is how common this habit has become among older Americans. It feels responsible, it feels safe, but in reality, it quietly raises the risk of a catastrophic event that could strike before the sun ever rises. And if you believe dehydration is the most underestimated nighttime risk, wait until you hear the next evening habit, one that millions of seniors use to relax, unaware that it silently disrupts their brain function and magnifies their stroke risk even further. Let's continue with evening habit number 5, a behavior that disguises itself as comfort but slowly turns into one of the most misleading dangers for the aging brain. 5. Using alcohol to relax before bed. Across the United States, millions of older adults end their day with what they call a nightcap, a glass of wine, a shot of whiskey, or a mixed drink sipped slowly in the quiet of the evening. For many, it feels like a ritual of comfort, a way to unwind from the noise of the day or ease the loneliness of an empty home. After decades of treating aging brains, I can tell you this: alcohol at night is not relaxing the body the way you think it is. In fact, once you are past 60, that evening drink becomes one of the most quietly destructive habits you can develop, especially for your heart, your blood vessels, and your brain. Alcohol tricks the brain. In the first hour, it creates a false sense of calm. Your muscles loosen, your thoughts slow, and your blood vessels widen. But inside an older body, that widening is dangerous. Dilated vessels allow blood pressure to drop suddenly, and the brain, already vulnerable due to age related circulatory changes, must struggle to maintain proper oxygen flow. Then, just hours later, the opposite happens. The body rebounds, stress hormones rise, blood pressure surges, the heart begins to beat harder, faster, and with more irregular patterns. This sequence, first a sudden drop, then a sharp spike, is devastating for aging arteries that can no longer expand and contract smoothly. I have watched patients suffer strokes in the early morning hours after what they believed was an innocent drink the night before. The nighttime impact of alcohol is even deeper. As the body processes alcohol during sleep, the blood thickens and becomes more sluggish. Dehydration increases dramatically, especially in older adults whose kidneys no longer regulate fluids efficiently. Platelets become stickier, clots form with alarming ease. And when these clots form in the slow, uneven nighttime circulation of an older person, they have a terrifying freedom to move. Many of them travel upward as the body shifts positions during sleep or when blood pressure rises upon waking. When a clot reaches a narrowed vessel in the brain, it triggers strokes that unfold without warning, strokes that can take away speech, memory, and independence in a matter of minutes. Even more concerning is the illusion of safety. Alcohol sedates you, and seniors often mistake sedation for healthy rest. But sedation is not sleep. Alcohol disrupts the deepest stages of sleep that repair the brain and regulate the heart. Instead of resting, the brain is forced to fight through the metabolic aftermath of alcohol all night long. And a tired, strained brain is far more likely to suffer a vascular event. I have seen seniors lose entire decades of cognitive stability because of what they believed was just one drink. Perhaps the greatest danger of all is how normal this habit has become in American culture. It doesn't carry the alarm of smoking or the stigma of drug use. It feels civilized, even justified. Many older adults tell themselves that a drink helps them cope, helps them forget stress, helps them breathe. But once the body crosses into its 60s, every organ involved in processing alcohol, liver, heart, kidneys, blood vessels,
has far less reserve. What once felt harmless now becomes a nightly burden your aging brain cannot afford. If you are over 60 and using alcohol to unwind before bed, I urge you to see this habit clearly. It is not calming your body, it is destabilizing it. And the price is paid in the quietest, darkest hours of the night when your brain is least able to protect itself. And if you think alcohol is the most misleading danger in your nightly routine, wait until you hear about the next evening habit, one that millions of seniors mistake for comfort, even though it quietly disrupts brain function and heightens stroke risk in ways few people ever suspect. Let's move to evening habit number 6, a behavior so common in older Americans that many don't realize it's harming their brain every single night.
6. Excessive screen time before bed. As a neurologist who has spent more than 4 decades treating older Americans, I can say with absolute certainty that the glow of a screen, whether it's a television, tablet, or smartphone, has become one of the most underestimated threats to the aging brain. The habit seems harmless. You're not lifting anything heavy. You're not exerting yourself. You're simply scrolling through emails, catching up on social media, or watching one more episode before bed. It feels like rest. It feels like escape. But for adults over 60, this nightly ritual quietly affects the brain and circulatory system in ways far more dangerous than most people could ever imagine. When you stare into a bright screen at night, your brain receives a powerful signal that it is still daytime. The blue light pours through the eyes and directly interferes with melatonin production, the hormone that regulates sleep, lowers nighttime blood pressure, and protects the cardiovascular system while you rest. Without adequate melatonin, the body enters the night physiologically unprepared. Blood pressure remains higher. Heart rate stays more reactive. Stress hormones linger in the bloodstream. And for an older adult, this means you are lying down to sleep with a system that is still wired, tense, and overextended. That alone is enough to elevate stroke risk, but the danger grows even deeper. As the screen stimulates the brain, neural activity increases in areas that should be shutting down for the night. The frontal lobe, the region responsible for planning, memory, and executive function, works harder than it should. That heightened activity demands more oxygen and more blood flow, but older arteries are not equipped to deliver it efficiently. So while the surface of the brain appears calm, underneath, the vessels are straining. They narrow. They stiffen. They attempt to deliver more blood into an environment that was meant to be entering rest. For many seniors, this silent nighttime strain becomes the tipping point toward vascular instability. Compounding this is the effect screens have on sleep architecture. Screen use before bed disrupts deep sleep, the stage where the brain clears toxins, regulates inflammation, and stabilizes blood pressure. When deep sleep is fragmented or shortened, the body struggles to maintain proper circulation throughout the night. Blood becomes thicker as hydration drops, and clotting factors become more active in the bloodstream. In older adults with slow nighttime circulation, this combination is deadly. Blood moves more sluggishly. Platelets become stickier. It forms blood clots while you sleep, and those clots remain silent until the early morning hours when blood pressure rises and sends them upward. Once they lodge in a vessel feeding the brain, it triggers strokes that unfold without warning. I have seen countless seniors who tell me, "Doctor, I was just watching TV before bed. I didn't think I was doing anything wrong." But inside their brain, the damage began hours earlier. The overstimulation, the elevated blood pressure, the disrupted sleep, all of it set the stage for a vascular event they never saw coming. And because nighttime is the period when the brain relies most on stable circulation, anything that disrupts the body's natural rhythms becomes a direct threat to cognitive health and long-term independence.
What worries me most is that screen time before bed has become so culturally accepted in America that seniors no longer question it. They fall asleep with the TV on, scroll in the dark, or keep a phone by the pillow. These habits appear harmless, but the aging brain experiences them very differently. What a younger adult can tolerate, an older adult cannot. The brain past 60 is more sensitive, more vulnerable, and more easily pushed into instability. If you are over 60 and use screens before bed, understand this clearly. You are not simply relaxing. You are exposing your brain to a stimulus that disrupts its natural nighttime protection, leaving your blood pressure elevated, your sleep fragmented, and your circulation vulnerable at the very moment it needs calm the most. And if you think screen time is the last hidden danger in your nightly routine, the next evening habit is even more widespread and even more quietly destructive to the circulation of older Americans. Let's move to evening habit number 7, a behavior that feels peaceful, harmless, even wholesome. Yet, it quietly sets the stage for some of the most dangerous nighttime blood flow problems in seniors. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 7.
7. Going to bed after a long evening of physical inactivity. Of all the evening habits I've observed in my older American patients, none is more deceptively dangerous than this: spending the last hours of the day sitting still, barely moving, and then going straight to bed. It is a routine so ordinary, so familiar, that most seniors never question it. You finish dinner, you settle into your favorite chair, maybe you read the paper, maybe you fold laundry, maybe you simply rest after a long day, and then you rise slowly, turn off the lights, and head to your bedroom. It feels peaceful. It feels earned. But as a neurologist who has cared for older adults for more than 40 years, I can tell you that this quiet stillness is one of the most silent and potent triggers of nighttime strokes in people over 60. When you remain inactive for an extended period late in the evening, your circulation naturally slows. The muscles in your legs, your body's primary pump for pushing blood back toward the heart, almost shut down. Your blood pools in the lower extremities, collecting in veins that have already weakened with age. Unlike in younger adults, these vessels no longer have the elasticity or the valve strength to keep blood moving upward. And as the hours pass without movement, the flow becomes sluggish, thick, and uneven. Inside that slowing river of blood, platelets begin to gather. They clump. They attach themselves to the vessel walls. And in many cases, they form blood clots that sit silently in the legs, waiting for the next pressure change, the next shift in position, or the next early morning surge in blood pressure. This stage, where seniors are sitting still before bed, is when the danger begins. But the true risk emerges later, after you fall asleep. During sleep, your heart rate slows, your blood pressure naturally dips, and your muscles relax completely. The blood, already sluggish from hours of inactivity, becomes even more stagnant. Older adults also tend to lose hydration during the night through shallow breathing and age-related fluid changes, which means the blood becomes thicker, stickier, and more prone to clotting. It is in this quiet darkness, when everything feels safe, that the perfect storm is forming inside your veins. Then comes the moment of awakening, the most dangerous window for seniors. Between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m., your body experiences a sharp rise in blood pressure as part of the natural circadian rhythm. This sudden increase in pressure is often strong enough to dislodge a clot that formed the night before. And once that clot begins to move, it doesn't ask permission. It travels upward, carried by the bloodstream, until it reaches a narrow vessel inside the brain. When it becomes lodged there, blocking the path of oxygen-rich blood, it triggers strokes. Strokes that appear without warning, strokes that steal independence, identity, and memory in the space of a moment. The heartbreaking part is that most seniors never recognize the connection. They believe their stroke came out of nowhere, not realizing it was set in motion the night before, during those long, quiet hours when their legs weren't moving and their circulation was slowing to a crawl. I have seen countless lives change because of this single everyday habit, this gentle stillness that feels so comforting, yet places the aging brain at extraordinary risk. If you are over 60, please understand, your body is not asking for strenuous exercise at the end of the day. It is asking for motion. A few minutes of walking, stretching, or simple leg movements can prevent the blood from stagnating, can stop clots from forming, and can protect your brain from the devastating consequences of nighttime vascular events. Your legs are not just limbs, they are your lifeline to a healthy brain. And now that we've explored all 7 evening habits, what comes next may be the most important message of all: how these habits combine, how they quietly reinforce one another, and what simple changes can dramatically reduce your stroke risk starting tonight. Let's move into the final conclusion, where I'll tie everything together and show you the life-saving principles every senior in America must understand.
The small choices tonight that protect your brain tomorrow. After caring for thousands of older Americans over the course of my career, one truth stands above all the rest: strokes rarely arrive without warning. They do not strike out of nowhere. They are built slowly, quietly, invisibly, through the habits we repeat every evening. The body of a 60-year-old or 70-year-old no longer has the biological cushion it once had. The circulation is slower, the arteries are stiffer, the heart is more vulnerable to nighttime instability, and the brain, perhaps the most delicate organ of all, depends on these final hours of the day to restore, repair, and prepare for the next morning. Every habit we've discussed — late heavy meals, long hours of sitting, unresolved stress, nighttime dehydration, evening alcohol, excessive screen time, and hours of inactivity — places silent pressure on an aging vascular system. With each passing year, these pressures accumulate. They thicken the blood, they strain the heart, they disturb the natural rhythms that keep your brain safe. And in too many cases, they create the exact environment where a clot can form, travel upward, and trigger strokes that steal independence in a single moment. But the message I want you to walk away with tonight is not fear, it is power. Because unlike genetics, unlike aging, unlike the unpredictable circumstances of life, these evening habits are yours to change. They are fully within your control. You don't need new medication. You don't need expensive equipment. What you need is awareness and willingness. A decision to treat your evenings not as empty hours, but as the most important window of protection your brain has. You have the ability right now to rewrite the pattern, to give your blood the circulation it needs, to give your heart the stability it depends on, to give your brain the safety it deserves. I have seen older adults reverse their risk, reclaim their confidence, and sleep with peace again, not through dramatic changes, but through simple evening shifts done every day with purpose and respect for their age. And if you take any lesson from this entire message, let it be this: your brain is fighting for you every night. Now, it is time for you to fight for it too. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.